Yeah, your garage band is different than mine. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well, this is version 10.0.3.
Mine's probably like 9 something. How do you find out the version? About 6.
Yeah. You're a little behind.
Shit.
Play Whiskey Wednesday Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26, each week you could win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select 2 doors at checkout. And if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof. And the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com.
Bringing to you the best stories from icons in the bourbon industry, it's Bourbon Pursuit. Now here are your hosts, Ryan and Kenny.
We're back with another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. As always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Ryan. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. We're out here hunting for some Elijah Craig barrel proof, waiting on a semi truck to get in. So
that's true.
Why not just let's record some podcast.
It's an excuse for us to try to get some backlog homework done. We did an interview. I should say that Ryan over here did an interview with Mike Sonne over at Heaven Hill. And we wanted to kind of preface it a little bit more with some information about kind of what's going on with Heaven Hill, what's going on with their journey and the boom that they're kind of seeing. So as Ryan kind of said, we're sitting here at a liquor barn, literally waiting for a semi truck to come with the delivery, because we've already found out. How many bottles did they say they have?
They said they're getting 3 bottles in, and there's 2 of us. So
one other lucky person is going to come here. But I mean, you got to think, when you think about Elijah Craig barrel proof, right? There's a lot of things that we see on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, there's a lot of different Elijah Craig barrel proofs that are actually out there. I was honestly kind of flabbergasted a little bit to kind of see that some of the biggest liquor stores in Louisville are only getting 3 bottles apiece.
Yeah, that's insane. I guess it has to say how much demand there is for the product, I guess nationwide. But you would think that the biggest buyers here in Louisville would get a little bit more help. But hey,
There's always that argument to say that, you know, more of the bourbon needs to stay closer in Kentucky because, even when we talk to some other people that they'll go and there'll be nice bottles of bourbons that sit on the shelves for months on end. And, I definitely believe that we need to share the wealth and share what we have in Kentucky and be able to give that experience to people outside. But it is hard to kind of see that even when the stuff's in your own backyard, it's impossible to find.
yeah, and I think too, I was talking to my contacts at Heaven Hill the other day, and there's just a shortage of, just regular Elijah Craig. They're anticipating a big shortage on that later this year and on Larceny, just because the demand for those products has been through the roof. So that's probably, reducing the allotment of barrel proof because obviously you have shorter supply when you're just pulling straight from the barrel without cutting it with water. So that could be the reason too.
It definitely could be. But at the same time, you got to understand that they've got, we always hear it, right? It's the one big line and quote that you see on t-shirts, you see it on marketing campaigns, that there are more barrels of bourbon aging in Kentucky than there are people and horses combined.
Yeah, that is, they always said, but I guess that was the barrels that are there now probably were just made. So I think Heaven Hill just recently filled their 7th millionth barrel. And, yeah, I think it's just hard, I guess, because they have to prepare 10 to 12 years from now what their demands are going to be. So they probably just didn't anticipate it being this crazy.
That's very true. It's very true. We've talked to a few different master distillers through different means, and they've basically, when we talked to Harlan at the Legend series, he's basically said that their allocation for Pappy Van Winkle, it's already basically done up until 2037.
Right.
Like the barrels are out, they're away, they're aging, and they've just got to do their thing. And then next year they plan for 2038. And I think, you own your own business. Like, forecasting is definitely a very hard thing to do, especially in an industry that, is going through such a huge boom. And how do you sit there and think, well, is this a fad? Is it going to be over soon? Do we need to start making our own vodka to maybe, shim something else in there into our portfolio?
Yeah, it's kind of, well, in my own business, it's hard just to forecast from 6 to 12 months or, a year. It's hard to just predict. So I can't even imagine. I think one good thing about Heaven Hill is they're pretty, I guess they're diversified in their whole portfolio. Their number one product is actually Burnett's Vodka is their number one. Evan Williams is closely second now, but they got rums, vodkas, cordials, they got brandies, you name it. They're pretty well diversified. So if there is, a reduction in bourbon, I think they'll be okay.
That's true. And you said a fact as well before we started this about how much Evan Williams has gone out as of this point. So what was that again?
Yeah. So far this year, they've shipped out 900,175 bottles. That's pretty crazy. And we're only in mid-February. And most of this is going to Western Europe, or not Western, sorry, Eastern Europe and Australia is really demanding their products and stuff. But yeah, it's insane. Like when we toured together the bottling facility, and Mike was able to give me a tour also. One thing, you walk in Heaven Hill, you just immediately notice the scale of how big the production is. We were there and we watched them filling up some JW Dant bottles, and there was probably 3,000 to 4,000 bottles filled within a couple minutes.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was amazing to kind of see the automation that goes in. And, for anybody else that comes and experiences a bourbon trail tour here in Kentucky and you go and visit these distilleries, I would definitely encourage you to go and visit a micro distillery or one of the ones that are on the craft distillery tour, as well as going and seeing one of the big shops, right? The big shops of Makers and Heaven Hill and all these people that everything is completely automated. Everything is done through machines and robots. I mean, literally, we saw robots picking and moving pallets and empty bottles and all these different things that were actually happening inside of Heaven Hill, right? So it was impressive to really see. But then you go to maybe like Limestone Branch, where they are going to eventually make bourbon, but right now they're just making, White Dog, moonshine, whatever,
Right.
because it's, you can make it today and you can sell it tomorrow. It's an easy way to get in the business, and that's what they're doing. And every single thing they do, their warehouse is probably, or should I say their whole operation, I don't know, maybe 2,000 square feet, if that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to kind of see the difference in size and scale, what somebody can put out, as well as the ability to see that, everything there is hand bottled, hand labeled. Whereas, as you can see in Heaven Hill, I mean, they have such a massive production that it has to be automated. There's no way you could do that. And it was definitely interesting to also see when we were looking at the bottling line, to just see the automation between all the different types of bottles, right? Because you have to think, if I've got glass, I got 1.75s, I got all these different types of things, how do you build the automation around that? So
yeah, it kind of looked like a Ford manufacturing plant in there it was impressive, but they do still. The cool thing too is like their small batches and single barrels, they still do hand bottle and, do the hand dipping and so forth. But,
it was kind of funny. That was almost like it was
a little
it was like a fold out table, it was like two fold out tables stuck together. And they were like, this is where we actually bottle Henry McKenna.
Yeah. Like all their Elijah Craig, Henry McKenna, the Evan Williams single barrel, all their high end stuff. They'd still hand bottle, which is kind of cool. But, it was definitely too little, not very, like a 10 to 15 foot line whereas, I mean, there's 15 acres of bottling and warehouse facilities in that whole facility. But, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was one thing that I also found very intriguing when I was there. You think Heaven Hill, the first thing that comes to your mind is, bourbon, right? I mean, you've got Heaven Hill, you got Evan Williams and Elijah Craig and all these things. And then you walk in and you're like, you smell caramel, and you smell rum, and you smell blueberry, you smell green apple.
Yep.
And you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? And there's literally I don't know, did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So like the barrels of methylamine that he used to have.
Yeah.
There's literally barrels filled with flavoring profiles
as far as you can see. I mean,
yeah. And those are used to make flavored rums and to all these kind of things. Like they do a wide range of alcohols there, not just bourbon, which I thought was a little bit different, because I don't know how many other different distilleries around here actually do that as well.
Yeah, I think Mike told me when I was there that they average about 750,000 cases of just all products every 2 weeks that they ship out, that they bottle and ship out. So it's pretty cool.
That was kind of funny. We had somebody else that gave us a tour, and he said, what we do in about a day is what most distilleries do in about 3 months.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. And they have to pay so much. I think their taxes is like $13 million a week or something, for every amount you barrel or bottle. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was something crazy like that. But, the interview, unfortunately you couldn't make it, but Mike, we'll talk a little bit about Mike. He's the head taster, and head of quality control for the bourbons, and vodka department at Heaven Hill. He, assists Parker Beam and now their new, master distiller, Denny Potter. He kind of helps them in just, tasting the bourbons and making sure that it meets the quality up to their standards. So it's pretty interesting to see kind of how he's evolved through the company. I think he started 30 years ago, and how he's, from the beginning to now, and he's gone through the booms and the downswings and everything. So it was interesting to get his take on, what goes into finding, or creates a good bourbon.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very interesting interview that you did with him, just because of the way that he learned from his mentors over time, how his flavor palettes definitely changed, all these different things, and how it is kind of interesting to kind of see that, the master distillers aren't the only ones that are sitting there tasting the bourbons and making sure they're the only ones going out, right? So there's always people behind the scenes that don't get the recognition and love that of course the people that are in front of the magazines and have the headshots and are invited to go to, sign autographs and on their bottles and stuff like that. But there's a lot more people that are making it happen behind the scenes, and Mike is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is amazing what all goes into the production of barrel, from bottling to barrel to, just the whole production of bourbon. There's a lot of integral parts. I mean, in Heaven Hill, they employ over 300 people. And in Bardstown, I mean, Heaven Hill, Maker's Mark, and Jim Beam really, they are the economy. And it's kind of interesting to see how much is involved in, this process. So Mike kind of breaks it down for us and gives us some good insight, behind the scenes of what, goes on a day-to-day basis at Heaven Hill.
Good deal. Now here's the interview with Ryan and Mike.
Thanks, guys.
If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point-of-sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point of sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon.
I had the privilege today to be with Mike Sonne here at Heaven Hill Distillery. How you doing, Mike?
Doing fine.
Mike and I just went through a tour of the bottling to from the barrel to the bottling. Is really neat, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. So, anyways, I kind of talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis here at Heaven Hill.
Well, main job, tasting bourbon. When we dump into storage tanks for the bulk loads, I will taste those when I get a batch dump. All the individual stuff, Larceny, Elijah Craig, that type of thing, I'll taste those. Those are done as individual dumps, whereas the 2 and 3 and 4 year old that we chip out bulk and so on is done in a storage tank. But the Evan Williams, Larceny, Elijah Craig, myself, and one of the lab technicians will taste everything as it's processed and get it ready for bottling.
Awesome. So, like, typical day for you guys, y'all, what time you get started?
Get here about 7:15 and leave whenever you get done.
Leave whenever you get done. I'm sure there's always product to be tasting with the boom going on right now.
Right. Of course, there's all the other products besides the bourbon that we have to taste too.
Right, exactly. What is your favorite product of Heaven Hill?
Probably right now, the Larceny. I'm real excited about the Larceny.
Larceny, that's new, and I talked to you about it before. Can you kind of give us a story behind Larceny?
Larceny is a wheated bourbon. The old Fitzgerald that we do is a wheated bourbon, and we had some older inventory of wheated bourbon in the barrel warehouses. So we started Larceny from the older wheated bourbon we have.
Gotcha. So it's different. Old Fitzgerald's, but it's
in age.
In age. Gotcha. But it's kind of the same.
Right.
Gotcha.
Same mash formula.
Gotcha.
Using wheat instead of rye for the small grain.
We were talking earlier about how you got started at Heaven Hill and like kind of had the changes. Can you kind of talk about that, where you started and now to where you are now?
Well, I basically started out in processing, where we actually do everything, and was interested in the quality and so on, and had the opportunity to get into quality control, which led me to the road of tasting the bourbons, and was very I do a good job at it, basically.
Did you have a mentor or anybody that kind of trained you, say, here's what you need to be looking for?
There was a couple old guys that were here. They're now gone that were the tasters back then. Basically, on bourbon, people have that ability to taste the different ages,
right,
the different nuances of the bourbon. When we do taste tests, like we're getting ready to do out here in the research and development lab now on a product, we kind of pick out employees. I know employees that are good with bourbon. I know good employees that are good with gin or vodka or something like that. So we kind of pick the employees. So there's myself that does tasting. There's another lady here that is very good at bourbon tasting. She does taste everything that I do. And then if we see something that we're wondering about, we'll bring in maybe a dozen more people to taste something.
Cool. And y'all said y'all agree about 80% of the time?
Yeah.
On that?
The lady and I agree about 80% of the time. We both see the same things in bourbons. A lot of times I don't think we see eye to eye. I think it's just kind of a gender thing. Maybe she tastes something that a man wouldn't taste, or I taste something she wouldn't taste.
I think, too, like, it's interesting. A lot of the females are starting to enjoy bourbon because these mixologists and cocktails, they're coming out with these great concoctions with bourbon. And I've seen the females really start to, it's just not a men's drink anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of surprised me that the women have taken on to the bourbon. It really does.
Yeah, it's they can mask it, I guess, the stuff but they really bring out, like, the old fashioned stuff, bring out the, the sweetness and stuff. I think the women really enjoy that stuff. So, like, through that process, I think you said you started about in the early 80s.
Yes. Back to it, I kind of started out in processing. Like I said, I got interested in the quality control and did taste tests before I got involved in the quality control to make sure I had the ability to taste and see the difference in ages. I mean, most anybody that is good at bourbon, you can set a 4-year and a 10-year out in front of them. Most everybody's going to see the difference in it.
Right.
I mean, there's that drastic of an age.
Right.
So basically, what you look at when you taste a 4-year-old, it's not going to be as mature as a 7-year-old, but you look for it to make sure it's not too hot. It's not green tasting. There's another word for it. Young bourbon, if it's not aged well, will have a green taste, what we call a green taste.
Gotcha. Now, obviously, we're in a big boom right now. Why do you think that is, and how long do you think it's going to last?
I've seen in the 30-some years I've been here, it's been up and down a few times. I think it is a lot of people, all these micro distilleries jumping into it. I hope it booms well because a lot of people are jumping into the business.
Seems like it's not made in Kentucky. It kind of takes that special story about, what bourbon is or whatever. So we'll see how it goes with these micro distilleries.
I hope it stays booming, but you never know. Vodka's kind of on the decline now, and the bourbon's on the boom.
Right. Well, I guess in the 80s and 90s, it was on the reverse. Bourbon was down and vodka was kind of up. So I guess people will get bored, I guess, and want something different all the time. So
but I think bourbon's always going to be a staple. I mean, it might be, like the flavored vodkas or a rush, with the young people. But bourbon has always been stable with the adult society, I guess I would say. That, my father drank bourbon. That's all he drank all his life. That's the only drink that he drank.
Right.
You got those people that that's their drink. It's going to be their drink throughout their life.
Right. We've asked our guests what was their first experience with bourbon. So tell us about yours.
First experience with bourbon?
Yeah.
I guess really the first bourbon I ever drank, even before I started working here, was Evan Williams.
Evan Williams, gotcha. Was that in your dad's liquor cabinet or something?
Heaven Hill Green Label 6-year 90 was in my dad's liquor cabinet.
I think I had the same exact thing. Whatever was in my dad's liquor cabinet, I could sneak out in high school or whatever.
6-year 90 Green Label Heaven Hill was what I saw at home.
Yeah.
And my father still drinks to this day. He's 97 years old, and he drinks Evan Williams Green 6-year 90 still, but he buys Evan Williams Black also.
It's a good choice. How do you drink it now? That if you're not tasting it, if you're enjoying it?
I like anything from probably 7 to 12-year-old.
Okay.
7 to 12-year-old is what I like best.
Gotcha. Why is that?
The 7-year-old, that's the good mature. 12-year-old up to 12-year-old, it's not too much of the barrel. Of course, when you're dealing with the older stuff, the single barrels that are like our 23-year-old, Elijah Craig 23-year-old, I like it. I'm the one that tastes it, and I do like it, but I don't like as much of the barrel taste that you get with the older bourbons.
Gotcha.
So my personal favorite is 7 to 12-year-old.
Gotcha. It seems like the older stuff and the special releases, are really taking off, and like there's even a secondary market for because of shortage of the products. But I know Parker's is a really big hit, and William Heaven Hill, which is hard to find. I think you can only buy it here.
Center, yes.
But I guess as people's palates get more advanced, they're really enjoying the barrel proofs and the higher age stuff.
Yeah, the Parker's Heritage is kind of interesting because we do something different with it every year, and I've always been fond of all those.
Okay.
Then every year we do a Parker's Heritage collection, and it may be a wheated bourbon, it may be a 12-year-old regular rye bourbon, just different things each year. The marketing kind of comes up with something, and Parker kind of gives his idea of what he'd like to do on the next Heritage collection, and we go out and pull barrels from the warehouse that he's interested in.
Gotcha. One thing too I like about your all's operation, it seems like y'all are in the forefront of what's coming, because I think you all are one of the first people to do a tour, the Heritage Center, to do tours and open up the distillery, kind of bring that like winery feel to it.
Well, everybody's pretty much had visitor centers, but when we built the Heritage Center here in Bardstown, it was a really nice one, and everybody's kind of followed suit. And now we've got the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience in Louisville, which is really a wonderful visitor experience.
Yeah, it's really nice. If you haven't checked that out, you got to go. It's not like coming here, because here you get to see, the warehouses and, everything. But downtown's cool. It gives you the vibe and feel of being in a distillery, but and the tasting is always good. So I highly recommend visiting that. So, I really appreciate you taking the time and giving us kind of an insider's look, to Heaven Hill here. Do you all have any, are y'all working on any experimental stuff, or any special releases you can talk about? Or
of course we are. I can't talk about it.
I hear you. I understand that. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm a big Heaven Hill fan, so we'll keep buying it, keep you in business. So thanks a lot for your time.
Nice talking to you.
All right.